The alien ship didn't land with drama. It didn't scorch the asphalt or split the clouds with a rumble. It just appeared one moment, the corner of Main Street was empty, and the next, a matte black vessel the size of a city bus sat parked between the post office and Larry's auto repair. "Tommy, you seeing this?" Tyler McKay leaned out of the tattoo parlor's front door, towel draped over his shoulder, cigarette hanging from his lip. His eyes squinted against the sunlight bouncing off the sleek surface of the craft. Tommy, the kid who swept the floors and restocked inks, stood frozen next to the mailbox, mouth wide open. Inside the parlor, the needle buzzed steadily. Tyler stepped back into the shop, stubbed out the cigarette, and called over his shoulder, "Tanner, you all right in there?" "Still breathing," Tanner replied, voice calm but slightly strained. He lay on the padded table, shirtless, exposing the elaborate outline of a Norse serpent curling over his ribs. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Good. Don't move. I think we just got company." The bell above the door jingled. The creature that entered didn't exactly scream alien, though it sure didn't look like anything native to Georgia. Tall, symmetrical, silvery skin with a soft glow and eyes like polished obsidian. It had a vaguely humanoid shape, though it moved like water in a container, controlled, graceful, too smooth. Tyler blinked once, slowly, then turned back to his kit and wiped the needle. "You here for a walk-in?" he asked. The alien tilted its head. "I am designated Vel. I have come to observe." "Observe what?" Tyler asked. "Pain tolerance." Tanner groaned from the back. "You picked the right place." Vel glided further in, gaze sweeping across the framed tattoo art on the walls, the sterilization equipment, the worn leather chairs. "Your species confounds our understanding. We have studied neural pathways, biochemical responses. All data indicates that your pain thresholds should render certain behaviors impossible. Yet you endure." Tyler shrugged. "We've been through worse." Vel turned toward Tanner. "That human is currently enduring a dermal modification process without sedation. This is of interest." Tanner lifted his head and looked at the alien. "You're not going to try to probe me or something, are you?" Vel blinked. "No." "Then yeah, feel free to watch. But don't distract Tyler. He's working near my ribs." The alien positioned itself silently beside the table, observing intently. Tyler sat down, pulled on gloves, and resumed his work. The needle buzzed. Tanner winced, jaw tightening. Tyler kept the needle steady, working in slow, deliberate strokes. Vel studied the process without blinking. "You are experiencing pain. Your dermal nerves are signaling damage. Yet you remain immobile." "Why?" Tanner forced out a breath through his nose. "Because I want the tattoo." "You override your pain response willingly?" "Not override," Tanner said, voice tense. "You manage it. Focus on the goal. Pain's temporary. Ink is forever." Vel's head moved slightly, calculating. "We have monitored your species' reactions to injury, combat scenarios, medical emergencies. But this is voluntary, unnecessary pain." Tyler looked up briefly. "Who says it's unnecessary?" "Guy wants a serpent crawling down his side. That's expression." Vel did not respond. It observed for another 20 minutes in silence as Tyler worked his way down the curve of Tanner's ribs. Sweat soaked the fabric beneath him. His hands gripped the sides of the table. After another 10 minutes, Tyler leaned back and said, "Break?" Tanner nodded, breathing heavily. He sat up slowly, the inked serpent gleaming in black and red across his skin. Vel moved closer. "You were injured?" "No," Tanner said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Just raw. Happens with line work on thin skin." Vel tilted its head again. "You have willingly exposed your nerve endings to persistent damage for aesthetic purposes. This is illogical." "Welcome to Earth," Tyler said, peeling off his gloves. Vel extended a thin device from its arm, projected a holographic waveform in the air. "Neural activity indicates substantial nociceptive signaling. You are in measurable pain." "No kidding," Tanner muttered. "I must test this further," Vel announced. "With consent." Tyler narrowed his eyes. What kind of test? Observation only. I will monitor during your procedures. No interference. Tanner looked at him. What do you think? You already signed the waiver, Tyler said. Want to finish the outline today? Yeah. Let's do it. Vel remained in the shop for the next 5 hours. It watched as Tyler completed the entire ribcage tattoo, outlining, shading, even touching up minor details. Tanner gritted his teeth, sipped water, and occasionally cursed under his breath. He never asked to stop. When night fell and the shop closed, Vel followed them to the diner across the street. It didn't eat but remained seated at the booth beside them, questioning every aspect of the experience. You consumed no analgesic substances, Vel said. Nope. Tanner mumbled around a mouthful of burger. Endorphin levels spiked. Yet you continued. Because I wanted to finish it. You had the option to delay. I know. Vel paused. Why? Tanner leaned back in the booth. Ribs sore, movements stiff. Because if I stopped every time something hurt, I'd never get anywhere. Vel was silent for a long moment. Then it said, This contradicts all predictive models of your species. Tyler sipped his coffee. Yeah, we get that a lot. The next day, Vel returned with 2 companions taller, cloaked in shimmering robes, and clearly of higher rank. They introduced themselves with names Tyler couldn't pronounce, but they insisted on watching as well. Tanner returned for color work. This time, he brought a pillow to clutch and 2 bottles of electrolyte drink. The aliens stood in a corner of the shop, murmuring in their own language, recording everything. Halfway through the session, Vel stepped forward. Your heart rate has increased. Pain is elevated. Yup, Tanner grunted. Why do you not cease? I made it this far. You could return tomorrow and go through the whole process of numbing up again? No thanks. Vel turned to the others, speaking rapidly. Tyler didn't understand the words, but their tone grew more agitated. One of them pointed at Tanner's exposed side. Eventually, Vel turned back. We request to observe another subject, preferably one less experienced with pain. Tanner raised an eyebrow. You think I'm some kind of anomaly? You are. Atypical. Variables in your psychological makeup appear to allow for greater resilience. Tyler crossed his arms. So you want someone who isn't used to this? Yes. Good luck with that, Tanner muttered. Most people wouldn't get past the stencil. The aliens left and returned later that week with a volunteer, an accountant named Jim from 3 towns over. He'd agreed to a small tattoo on his shoulder. He lasted 15 minutes before asking for a break. Another 10 before he asked to stop. His tattoo was a single rose the size of a quarter. Vel looked visibly distressed. This human's pain response is overwhelming. He is unable to suppress it. He's not used to it, Tyler said. You gotta build up tolerance. Your species builds tolerance to pain? We have to, Tanner said. Or we wouldn't last a day. The next week, Vel attempted to simulate the tattoo process on a controlled surface, projecting electromagnetic pulses onto synthetic skin. The data was inconclusive. Then Vel asked for permission. I would like to experience the process. Tyler blinked. You want a tattoo? I want to understand. After a long pause, Tyler nodded. All right. But you signed the waiver like everyone else. Vel agreed. They designed a simple symbol, nothing large. Just a line of geometric shapes along what passed for Vel's upper limb. The moment the needle touched Vel's skin, it flinched. Stop, it said. Tyler pulled back. You good. Vel's body shimmered faintly. The sensation is intense. Want to keep going? Vel hesitated. Yes. Tyler resumed. Vel's posture stiffened. After 10 seconds, it said, Stop. They repeated this 5 times before Vel finally said, I cannot proceed. Tanner leaned on the counter. You lasted less than a minute. Vel looked at him. Your species is incomprehensible. No, Tyler said. We just have weird ways of dealing with things. Back aboard their ship, Vel compiled the footage and sent the report back to its superiors. The summary was brief. Homo sapiens exhibit unpredictable reactions to physical trauma. Voluntary engagement with pain stimuli for non-survival purposes, specifically under the category of dermal modification, is widespread. Tolerance levels vary but can reach levels that exceed our species' capacity by a significant margin. Further study is inadvisable. In the quiet of the tattoo parlor, Tanner reclined in the chair again, healing ointment glistening on his fresh ink. "You think they'll come back?" he asked. Tyler shook his head. "Not for tattoos." "Shame," Tanner said. "I was hoping they'd try a back piece next." Tyler chuckled. They couldn't even handle the line work. Outside, the ship vanished as quietly as it had come. 3 days after Vel's departure, the ship returned, this time without subtlety. It hovered for nearly an hour 50 feet above the parking lot like a floating boulder, pulsing with a low-frequency hum that rattled the windows of every building in town. By the time it landed, the sheriff had cordoned off the area with plastic tape that flapped uselessly in the breeze, and a few curious retirees had set up lawn chairs across the street. Inside the tattoo parlor, Tyler was finishing a phoenix piece on a woman's calf when the door opened. The bell didn't chime. The air just shifted like gravity took a half-step sideways. 4 aliens entered in single file, none of them Vel. These ones were shorter. Their skin matte gray with faint striations like tree bark under frost. They wore no robes, only shimmering bands around their midsections that pulsed as they moved. One of them carried a rectangular case with both hands, arms slightly bent like it weighed more than it should have. Tyler didn't look up. "Give me 10 minutes. She's bleeding." The lead alien waited, unmoving. Its companions fanned out, inspecting the shop's layout with sharp, bird-like movements. The one with the case placed it carefully on the counter and stepped back. When Tyler finally stood and peeled off his gloves, the lead alien spoke. "We are the Kirov. Vel is not assigned to this mission." "Wasn't expecting a reunion," Tyler said, wiping his hands on a towel. "You here for a tattoo or another science fair?" The Kirov opened the case. Inside was a compact device shaped like a flattened compass with 3 concentric rings and a central needle quivering in place. "We request a controlled pain induction trial." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "Define controlled. No dermal penetration. No permanent alteration. We will simulate nociceptive input at varying intensities and observe human behavioral responses." Simulated pain. You want to zap someone? The needle inside the device twitched. "Yes." Tyler leaned on the counter. "You volunteering yourselves this time? We are incapable of experiencing pain." He exhaled through his nose. "Shocker. We require a human subject. Neutral, unconditioned, preferably naive to high-threshold stimuli." Tyler pulled a folding stool from under the counter and sat. "No offense, but you're not going to find anyone in this town who hasn't broken a bone or passed a kidney stone. Find one who has done neither. That's going to be a toddler. We require verbal feedback. Then you're out of luck." The Kirov paused. One of them tapped at a screen embedded in its wristband. A moment later, the door opened again. An older man stepped in, eyes darting nervously. His cardigan was buttoned wrong, and he clutched a white envelope. Tyler stood. "Mr. Harrow?" The man nodded. "They said I'd be compensated. Did they mention what for?" "They said it was like one of those old TENS units. You know, muscle zappers. I've used one for my back." Tyler looked at the aliens. "You cleared this with his doctor?" "We reviewed his medical file. No contraindications. Heart condition? Managed. Beta blockers. No arrhythmias in 18 months. Tyler sighed. "Okay. But if he passes out, you're cleaning the floor." Mr. Harrow chuckled weakly and sat in the chair offered by one of the Kirov. The device was placed on a metal stand in front of him, its needle now spinning slowly. "Describe each sensation numerically," the lead Kirov said. 0 for no pain. 10 for intolerable. Harrow nodded. "Got it." The first pulse made his left arm twitch. He blinked rapidly. Felt like a rubber band snap. "Maybe a 2. The second came 3 seconds later. His jaw clenched, but he didn't flinch. Bit sharper. 3. The third pulse caused him to jolt. He lifted his hand off the armrest. Okay, maybe a 5. Like hitting your funny bone, but it lingers. The Kirov studied the readings. The device recalibrated. The fourth pulse hit and Harrow gasped. 7. That's a 7. Kinda like when I had shingles on my ribs. Another pulse. 8. No, 8.5. It's like a hot wire under the skin. His breathing quickened. Sweat appeared along his hairline. Tyler stepped forward. He's done. He has not reached maximum tolerance, the Kirov said. He's 73 and takes blood thinners. He's done. The Kirov hesitated, then shut off the device. Harrow sagged in the chair, wiping his face with a tissue pulled from his cardigan pocket. Can I go now? Tyler handed him a bottle of water. Take your time. You did great. Harrow nodded and shuffled toward the door, still blinking. Your response curve is irregular, one of the Kirov said after he'd left. He's a person, not a lab rat, Tyler replied. You're not gonna get a clean chart. We request another subject. Younger. You're not hooking the thing up to a teenager. The Kirov conferred quietly among themselves. Then the one with the wrist screen tapped again. An hour later, a woman arrived. Early 30s, athletic build, gym logo on her hoodie. She introduced herself as Callie and agreed to participate after confirming the trial involved no needles, heat, or permanent damage. As she took the seat, one of the Kirov adjusted the device's angle. I've done martial arts for 12 years, she said. Got my finger dislocated during a tournament once. That's my 10. Your baseline is acknowledged. The first 3 pulses barely made her blink. She rated them 1 through 3. When the 5th pulse came, she flared her nostrils and crossed her arms. 5. Feels like a cramp in the arch of your foot. By the 8th pulse, she was gripping her knees. Okay, that's a 7. Like stepping on a Lego, but it's inside your body. Tyler raised a hand. You good? She nodded tightly. I'm not tapping yet. The next pulse made her lean forward. Her voice dropped. That's a 9. Same kind of sick feeling you get right before a migraine starts. The Kirov signaled for the final pulse. The needle spun faster, then locked still. Callie flinched but didn't cry out. Her fists trembled. 10, she said, breathing hard. That's your 10. One of the Kirov leaned closer. You maintained verbal clarity during maximum pain input. I've had a C-section, she said. This was easier. The Kirov recorded the data in silence. Callie stood slowly, stretching her arms. That thing's not bad, but it's missing the afterburn. There is no damage, the alien replied. Exactly. Real pain leaves a mess. She rolled her shoulders, thanked Tyler for the water, and left with a handshake. The Kirov turned to him. You do not exhibit uniform thresholds. Nope. Your subjects rationalize pain through comparison. Helps us measure it. And yet the scale changes by individual. Welcome to our world. The Kirov closed the device and returned it to its case. One of them approached the framed certificate on the wall, Tyler's licensure, and scanned it for several seconds. We observed contradictory behaviors, both aversion and pursuit of discomfort. We do not understand the strategic value. There isn't one, Tyler said. It's not about strategy. It's about choice. Pain is not a resource. No, but sometimes it's the only tool we've got. The Kirov stood motionless. We cannot replicate this, the lead one finally said. Didn't think you could. We were informed that a human endured dermal disruption for 6 consecutive hours. With no chemical assistance. Tyler nodded toward the back. Tanner's probably still asleep. Healing takes a lot out of you. That event has destabilized our predictive models. Maybe stop trying to model us. The Kirov carried the case to the door. Before leaving, the lead one turned back. You are functionally chaotic. Tyler raised an eyebrow. That a compliment? It is not a classification we have used before. Then they were gone. The next morning, Tyler found a small package on the shop's doorstep. Inside was a thin band of the same shimmering material the Kirov wore, flexible, cool to the touch. Alongside it was a card written in strangely tidy English, control is irrelevant. Endurance defines you. Tyler tucked the band into the drawer with his tattoo guns. He didn't wear it, but he kept it close. 3 weeks passed without another ship, probe, or flashing orb of interest. The The sky stayed blue. Tyler cleaned the ink tanks, reorganized the stencil drawers, and finally fixed the flickering light in the front hallway. Things settled into the kind of quiet that always felt temporary. Then, just before noon on a Wednesday, a vehicle arrived that was definitely not designed with road travel in mind. It hovered a few inches above the cracked pavement, about the size of a minivan but shaped like a hatchback made of polished stone. It parked diagonally across 3 spaces outside the shop, humming faintly. Tyler was halfway through a touch-up session on a woman's ankle when the door opened and 5 aliens entered. They weren't Kirov and they weren't Vel's species either. These ones were taller, leaner, with skin like mercury in motion. Their limbs moved with a rhythm that seemed almost musical, shoulders swaying slightly as they walked. Each had a small, circular device embedded near the base of their throat. None of them said anything at first. They formed a loose semicircle inside the shop, heads turning slowly as they examined the walls, the floor, the framed photos of healed ink. One of them pointed to the no piercing sign and tilted its head. Tyler didn't pause the needle. That's just to keep teenagers from asking if I'll do navels for $20. The alien who'd pointed stepped forward. We are from the Tessellary Accord. We have reviewed over 97 hours of observational footage from your establishment. The client, a nurse named Elena, glanced at him. You're famous now. Yeah, I keep waiting for the endorsement deals, Tyler muttered. The Tessellary spokesperson continued. We request to conduct a comparative resilience assessment. It will be non-invasive but extended in duration. Tyler wiped the inked skin clean, applied a strip of barrier film, and stood. Define extended. Continuous sensory input over a 6-hour period. Real-time monitoring. No pharmacological dampeners. The subject must remain conscious. Elena sat up straighter. You sure you're not describing jury duty? We have calibrated the stimuli to remain within survivable parameters. Tyler raised an eyebrow. I'd hope so. We seek to understand persistence under controlled adversity. The goal is not pain for its own sake, but to measure the threshold at which your species shifts from endurance to withdrawal. And you want to do this here? It is the only verified site where consistent human cooperation occurred. We prefer familiar environments to reduce psychological variables. Tyler looked around the shop. And you brought what, 5 of you? For 1 person. There will be rotation. We are sensitive to stimulus fatigue. Elena stood, pulled her jacket on, and patted Tyler's arm. Good luck. After she left, Tyler gestured to the back room. You want to use the chair or the table? The table. Your previous subjects displayed greater durability there. Tyler stripped off his gloves, washed his hands, and reclined on the padded surface. One of the Tessellary approached with a device the size of a cereal bowl. It hovered inches above his chest, emitting a faint rhythm of pulses like a heartbeat. We will begin with level 1. You may describe sensations as they occur. The first 30 minutes were uneventful. The pulses created a mild pressure behind his sternum, like being leaned on gently. He compared it to tight clothes or bad posture. The aliens said nothing. At the 2-hour mark, the pulses had shifted. They now came in clusters, each lasting about 60 seconds, separated by brief rests. Tyler's teeth buzzed faintly from the inside. How's your baseline? One of them asked. Like chewing foil with a sinus infection. Noted. By the 3rd hour, the pulses had begun to affect his breathing. Not dangerously, but enough to make his chest feel heavy. He sat up slowly, rubbed his temples. You all right continuing? One of them asked. Tyler nodded. This what you wanted? We are observing compensatory behavior. You engage in tactile self-soothing. He looked down at his hand on his leg. You mean rubbing my knee? Yeah, we do that when things suck. Your thermal regulation has shifted. You are sweating. Again, not shocking. The pulses intensified incrementally. By hour 4, they were causing small muscle twitches in his arms and legs. His jaw clenched periodically. Speech became more effortful. You may cease at any time, one of the Tessellary offered. Tyler shook his head. Not in the middle of a test. We are not grading you. That's not the point. They watched silently for a while after that. The pulses adjusted again, now targeting different areas in sequence: abdomen, upper spine, lower back. Tyler's shoulders tensed with each wave. At hour 5, the tessellari adjusted their positions, forming a closer triangle around him. You have not employed any vocalization strategies, one said. Tyler exhaled slowly. What, like yelling? Doesn't help. Your species often vocalizes during discomfort. Sure, but that's usually when we can't control other stuff. This is predictable. I can wait it out. Your heart rate is stable. Neural activity is unusually focused. I'm counting ceiling tiles. Purpose. Distraction. Keeps the edge off. They paused the pulses briefly. Tyler sagged against the table, one hand over his face. You may withdraw now without penalty. He lowered his hand. Finish it. The final hour was rough. The pulses reached a level that made his limbs tremble involuntarily. He bit the inside of his cheek hard enough to draw blood. No alarms went off. No one panicked. The tessellari simply watched, scanning data, exchanging occasional notes. When it finally stopped, the hovering unit dimmed and slowly retracted. Tyler lay still, blinking at the ceiling. One of the aliens approached with a container of cool water and handed it to him. You have completed the sequence, it said. He sipped, voice hoarse. What did you learn? The lead tessellari stepped forward. You exhibit sustained tolerance beyond predicted limits. Despite physiological strain, your decision to continue was not externally coerced, nor did you exhibit signs of dissociation or panic. Some people would have tapped out earlier, Tyler said. We do not consider this a failure of others. But your individual response has altered our comparative baselines. He rolled his shoulders slowly. What are you going to do with that? We will discontinue attempts to recreate this trait artificially. The mechanism appears to be cultural, psychological, and individually variable. Cannot be replicated through structural mimicry. So you're giving up. We are acknowledging that your resilience is not a product of anatomy alone. Another tessellari stepped forward. We have studied over 200 intelligent species. Most avoid discomfort instinctively. Your kind engages with it voluntarily, sometimes ritualistically, and often without extrinsic reward. This is not adaptive in the traditional sense. Tyler swung his legs over the side of the table. Maybe not in yours. The room was quiet for a moment. Then the lead tessellari held out a small object, a coin-like disc etched with a symbol that shimmered faintly in the shop's light. This is recognition. It is not currency. It denotes that you participated in full capacity for the duration. Tyler accepted it, turning it over in his palm. Looks like something you'd get from a vending machine. It cannot be reproduced. Only given. He nodded once. Appreciate it. The tessellari gathered their equipment, bowed slightly, and exited without fanfare. The vehicle lifted gently into the sky, leaving no scorch marks, no hum, no trace at all. Just an empty stretch of pavement and the faint smell of ozone. Tyler locked the shop, dimmed the lights, and sat in the back room sipping the rest of the water. His muscles still ached. His head throbbed with a low, dull rhythm. He placed the coin on the shelf above his workbench, right between the old rotary machine he never used and a photo of his first shop. It didn't glow or pulse. It just sat there quietly, like a reminder. Not of pain, but of choice.